I was sitting in my lawyer's office when my phone rang. It was my daughter-in-law, Christine. Her voice was shaking, broken as she said, "Mom, Laura, I need to tell you something. Please don't panic, but I just got my test results back. It's cancer. Stage 4. The doctors say I have maybe 6 months without aggressive treatment." The words hit me like a freight train. My son Marcus's wife, the mother of my 2 grandbabies, only 38 years old. I felt my chest tighten as I gripped the edge of the lawyer's desk. "Oh, sweetheart," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Where are you?" "I'm coming right now," she sobbed on the other end. "I'm at home. Marcus doesn't know yet. I wanted to tell you first because I need your advice on how to tell him without breaking his heart. My name is Laura Mitchell. I'm 72 years old, and until that moment, I thought I knew my family. I thought the woman my son married 12 years ago was someone I could trust. Someone who loved my grandbabies Emma and Joshua more than anything in this world. I was wrong about so many things, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, from the moment everything I believed started to crumble, and the moment I decided that some betrayals deserve more than forgiveness. They deserve a reckoning. I had been a widow for 8 years. My husband Raymond passed away from a heart attack while we were dancing in our living room to our wedding song, just like we did every anniversary. That night, he had held me close, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "60 years with you still isn't enough, Laura." Those were his last words before he collapsed in my arms. Since then, my son Marcus had been my rock. He called me every single day. He brought the kids over every Sunday for dinner. He made sure I wasn't drowning in the loneliness that comes with losing your partner of 6 decades. And Christine, well, she always seemed supportive. She'd help me in the kitchen, ask about my health, even suggested I update my will after Raymond died. "Mom, Laura, you need to make sure everything is in order," she'd say with that sweet smile I thought was genuine love. "You never know what could happen, and we want to make sure you're protected." I should have seen it then. The way her eyes would linger on Raymond's watches in the display case. The way she'd casually ask about property values in our neighborhood. The way she always volunteered to drive me to the bank. But grief makes you blind. And trust makes you stupid. When Christine called about the cancer, I dropped everything. I canceled my appointment with the lawyer where we were reviewing Raymond's trust fund, grabbed my purse, and drove straight to their house. It was a beautiful home in the suburbs, the one Marcus and Christine bought 5 years ago with help from Raymond and me as a down payment gift. $50,000 we gave them, money we'd saved for decades. I never asked for it back. Family doesn't work that way. At least, I thought it didn't. When I arrived, Christine was sitting on the couch in her pajamas, tissues scattered around her, her eyes red and swollen. She looked fragile, broken. My heart shattered seeing her like that. I sat beside her and pulled her into my arms. "Tell me everything," I said softly. "What did the doctors say exactly?" She pulled out a folder with medical papers. I'm not a doctor, but the documents looked official. Lab results, imaging reports, words like metastatic and aggressive treatment protocol jumped out at me. There was even a letter from an oncologist at Memorial Hospital recommending immediate chemotherapy. "They found tumors in my lungs and liver," Christine said, her voice barely a whisper. "It started in my breast, but I ignored the symptoms for too long because I was so busy taking care of the kids and the house. Now it's everywhere." I felt my stomach drop. "Does Marcus know?" "Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first because the treatment is going to be expensive, Mom, Laura. Our insurance will cover some of it, but the experimental treatments, the ones that might actually save my life, they're not covered. The doctor says it could cost up to $200,000. $200,000. The number hung in the air between us like a death sentence. "I'm going to die if I don't get this treatment," Christine continued, tears streaming down her face. "Emma is only 9. Joshua is 7. They need their mother. Marcus needs his wife. But we don't have that kind of money. We're already drowning in the mortgage and the kids' school tuition, and I don't know what to do." She looked at me with those desperate eyes, and I saw what I thought was a dying woman begging for help. What I actually saw was a performance that should have won an Oscar. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about my grandbabies growing up without their mother. I thought about Marcus, who had already lost his father. Could he survive losing his wife too? I thought about little Emma, who looked so much like Christine with her dark curls and bright smile. I thought about Joshua, who was just starting to read, and was so proud every time he finished a book. How could I let them lose their mother when I had the power to save her? By morning, I had made my decision. I called my financial advisor and told him I needed to liquidate $200,000 from Raymond's life insurance money. The money we'd saved for our retirement, for medical emergencies, for leaving something behind for Marcus and the grandkids. Mrs. Mitchell, he said carefully, that's a significant portion of your liquid assets. May I ask what this is for? Family emergency, I replied. My daughter-in-law is sick. She needs experimental treatment. He was quiet for a moment. I understand. But Mrs. Mitchell, please be careful. I've seen too many elderly clients taken advantage of in emotionally vulnerable situations. Have you verified everything with the doctors yourself? His words struck something in me, but I pushed the feeling down. She's family, I said firmly. I've seen the medical papers myself. This is real. He sighed. All right, I'll process the withdrawal. It'll take 3 business days. Those 3 days felt like years. Christine called me every evening with updates that she'd started telling Marcus, and he was devastated. She'd scheduled her first chemo appointment. She was getting her affairs in order. She even asked if I could take the kids more often once treatment started, because she'd be too weak to care for them. Of course, I told her. Anything you need, sweetheart. Anything. When the money finally cleared, I wrote Christine a check for $200,000. I met her at a coffee shop near the hospital where she claimed her treatments would be. She was wearing a headscarf, even though she hadn't started chemo yet. She said she was preparing mentally for the hair loss. Mom Laura, I don't know how to thank you, she said, tears in her eyes as she took the check. You're literally saving my life. I promise I'll pay you back someday. When I beat this, I'll work 3 jobs if I have to, but I'll pay back every penny. I held her hand across the table. You don't owe me anything except getting better. Focus on fighting this disease. Focus on being here for those babies. That's all the payment I need. She hugged me tight, and I felt her body shaking with sobs. I drove home that day feeling good about what I'd done. Feeling like I'd made Raymond proud. Feeling like I'd saved my family. I had no idea I'd just funded the biggest betrayal of my life. 2 weeks later, I stopped by their house with groceries. I'd been doing this every few days, bringing food and offering to help with the kids. Christine had told me she'd started chemotherapy and was having terrible side effects. When I arrived, Marcus answered the door. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his shoulders slumped with worry. Hey Mom, he said, giving me a weak hug. Come in. Chris is sleeping. The chemo really knocked her out this time. I brought the groceries to the kitchen and started unpacking. Fresh vegetables, chicken soup I'd made that morning, ginger tea for nausea, crackers for when nothing else would stay down. All the things Raymond's sister had survived on during her real battle with cancer 15 years ago. How was her appointment yesterday? I asked. Marcus frowned. Appointment? Yes, she texted me that she had chemo at 2 p.m. He shook his head slowly. She didn't have chemo yesterday. Her next session isn't until Friday. Something cold settled in my stomach. Are you sure? She specifically said, Mom, I've been going to every appointment with her. I take off work, I drive her there, I sit in the waiting room for hours. Yesterday she was home all day. She said she was too tired to do anything, so I worked from home to watch the kids. I tried to keep my voice steady. Maybe I misunderstood the text. But that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I pulled out my phone and looked at Christine's message. At chemo now. Feeling awful. Pray for me. Sent at 2:47 p.m. the previous day. The same time Marcus said she was home sleeping. I told myself there was an explanation. Maybe she'd canceled the appointment and forgot to tell me. Maybe I'd mixed up the dates. Maybe my 72-year-old brain wasn't as sharp as it used to be. But the cold feeling wouldn't go away. It sat in my chest like a stone, heavy and dark. That weekend, I did something I'm not proud of. While Marcus and Christine took the kids to a birthday party for one of Emma's classmates, I used the spare key they'd given me for emergencies and let myself into their house. I felt like a criminal, like I was betraying my own family. But something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones the same way I'd felt it 8 years ago when I woke up and knew, somehow knew, that Raymond was going to die that day. I went to Christine's desk where she kept important papers. Her medical folder was right on top, the same one she'd shown me that first day. I opened it and started reading more carefully this time. The letterhead looked right. The doctor's signature looked real. But something felt off about the way the information was presented. The dates seemed inconsistent. Some of the medical terminology didn't quite fit together the way it should. I took out my phone and started Googling. First, I searched for the doctor's name, Dr. Sarah Berkowitz, Oncology Memorial Hospital. The search came up empty. I tried different variations. Drive S. Berkowitz. Sarah Berkowitz, MD. Berkowitz Memorial Hospital. Nothing. Nothing at all. I called Memorial Hospital directly. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial. "Hello, I'm trying to reach Dr. Sarah Berkowitz in oncology," I said to the operator, trying to keep my voice calm. "I'm sorry, ma'am, we don't have an oncologist by that name. Would you like me to transfer you to our oncology department to find the right doctor?" My hands started shaking harder. "No, that's all right. Thank you." I hung up and stared at the papers in front of me. The lab results. The imaging reports. The treatment protocol. All of it signed by a doctor who didn't exist. I sat there in Christine's home office, surrounded by family photos on the walls, my grandbabies smiling in every frame, Marcus and Christine's wedding photo on the desk, and I felt something inside me break and then harden into something cold and sharp. I carefully took pictures of every single document with my phone. Then I did something I'd never done before. I opened Christine's laptop. It wasn't password protected, which should have been my first clue. People with real secrets lock their computers. People who think they're too smart to get caught don't bother. I opened her email and searched for anything related to medical appointments. Nothing. I checked her calendar. No chemo sessions. No doctor visits. Nothing. Then I searched for the name of the oncologist. What I found made my blood run cold. An email from 2 months ago, before Christine ever told us about the cancer. It was from a website called realisticmedicaldocuments.com. The email confirmed her order. Custom cancer diagnosis package, $299. Includes lab results, imaging reports, and doctor's letter on official letterhead. Satisfaction guaranteed. Thank you for your business. I sat there staring at the screen, my whole body numb. This couldn't be real. This had to be a mistake. Maybe she'd ordered these documents for a friend who needed help with insurance. Maybe she was helping someone else. Maybe there was an innocent explanation that I just wasn't seeing. But deep down I knew. I knew with the kind of certainty that comes from 60 years of reading people. From being a mother who could always tell when her son was lying about sneaking cookies before dinner. From being a wife who knew every micro-expression on her husband's face. Christine had faked cancer to steal $200,000 from me. I kept searching through her emails. I found correspondence with that website, asking specific questions about making the documents look authentic. I found searches in her browser history. How to fake cancer symptoms, cancer sympathy stories, elderly financial abuse laws. She had researched this. She had planned this. This wasn't a desperate moment of weakness. This was calculated, premeditated theft. I closed the laptop carefully, exactly how I'd found it. I put everything back in its place. I walked out of that house like a ghost, moving through the motions but feeling nothing except a vast, echoing emptiness where my trust used to be. When I got home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call Marcus. Instead, I did what Raymond always taught me to do when faced with a problem. I made a plan. I called a number I'd saved years ago, a private investigator named Thomas Chun, who'd helped us when someone tried to scam Raymond with a fake investment scheme right before he died. "Mr. Chun," I said when he answered. "This is Laura Mitchell. I need your help with a very sensitive family matter." "Mrs. Mitchell, of course. What's going on?" "My daughter-in-law claims she has stage 4 cancer. She's collected $200,000 from me for treatment. I have reason to believe it's all a lie." There was a pause. "That's a very serious accusation. What evidence do you have?" I told him everything. The fake doctor, the document website, the conflicting stories about appointments, the unprotected laptop, everything. He listened without interrupting, and I could hear him taking notes. "All right," he said finally. "Here's what we're going to do. I'll follow her for the next 2 weeks. I'll document where she goes, what she does, who she meets with. I'll also verify those medical documents with experts I work with. And Mrs. Mitchell, I need you to promise me something. What? No matter what I find, you can't confront her until we have everything documented legally. If she's running a con, we need airtight evidence. Can you do that? Can you keep this completely secret? It was the hardest promise I'd ever made. Yes, I can do that. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I had to pretend everything was normal. I had to hug Christine and ask about her treatment. I had to watch Marcus's face crumple with worry every time she claimed to feel sick. I had to sit with my grandbabies and tell them their mommy was going to be okay, knowing that their mommy was a liar but not knowing how to protect them from the truth that was coming. I had to smile at Sunday dinner while Christine picked at her food and talked about how the chemo was affecting her appetite. I had to listen to Emma ask me, "Grandma, is mommy going to die?" and reassure her while wanting to scream that her mother wasn't sick at all, she was just evil. Mr. Chin called me every few days with updates. "She's not going to any hospitals or clinics," he reported after the first 3 days. "Yesterday she went to a luxury spa in the upscale part of town. She got a massage, a facial, and a full body treatment. The bill was $600. Maybe it's for stress relief during treatment," I said, still wanting desperately to believe there was an explanation. Mrs. Mitchell, she also went shopping at Neiman Marcus. She spent 2 hours there and came out with several large bags. Designer clothes, expensive shoes. Then she met a man for lunch at an expensive restaurant downtown. They seemed very familiar with each other. Very close. My stomach turned. What man? I don't know yet. But I got photos. I'm working on identifying him. They kissed when they said goodbye. I felt sick. Keep following her. A few days later, Mr. Chin called again. His voice was tight with anger. "Mrs. Mitchell, you need to hear this. I've been tracking Christine's credit card activity with the access you gave me from the joint account she shares with your son. In the past 2 weeks since she received your check, she's deposited the money into a separate personal account that Marcus doesn't have access to. She's then been making large purchases from that account. A $20,000 deposit on a luxury condo in Miami Beach. $15,000 in luxury goods from various stores. Another $10,000 transferred to an account belonging to that man she met for lunch. His name is Derek Paulson. Who is he?" My voice sounded dead, even to my own ears. "He's a personal trainer at an upscale gym in the financial district. 32 years old. No criminal record. But Mrs. Mitchell, I have photos and videos of them together that strongly suggest they're in a romantic relationship. They're not trying to hide it when they're away from your neighborhood." The world tilted. Not only was Christine stealing from me, but she was cheating on my son. With my money. Planning a new life with another man using the money she'd stolen by faking a terminal illness. "There's more," Mr. Chin continued. "I had a forensic document analyst review the medical papers you photographed. They're completely fabricated. The letterhead is fake. The Real Memorial Hospital uses different paper and formatting. The doctor's signature is fake, obviously, since the doctor doesn't exist. Even the lab values are medically impossible. No one with the test results listed on these papers would be walking around shopping at Neiman Marcus. They'd be hospitalized or dead. What do I do?" I whispered. "We document everything. We build an airtight case. And then we set a trap." The trap was simple but brilliant. Mr. Chin suggested I tell Christine I'd received an unexpected windfall. An additional $100,000 from a forgotten investment account of Raymond's that had just matured. "Tell her you want to give it to her for additional treatment," he said. "Let's see what she does. Let's see if she shows any hesitation, any conscience at all. And let's record her response." I called Christine that evening. Marcus was working late, and she answered on the first ring. "Mom Laura, hi. How are you feeling?" "I'm wonderful, sweetheart. I have amazing news. You know how Raymond was always investing in different things?" "Yes." Her voice was cautious. "Well, his financial advisor just informed me that there was an old investment account I didn't know about. It just reached maturity, and it's worth $100,000. There was silence on the line. Then her voice came back, practically sparkling with greed. "Mom Laura, are you serious? Oh my God, this is amazing timing. I want you to have it," I said, putting warmth into my voice even though I felt sick. "For your treatment. For additional therapies. Whatever you need to beat this thing." "Oh, Mom Laura." She started crying. Actual tears I could hear in her voice. The doctors just told me about a new experimental treatment trial at Johns Hopkins. It's cutting edge, using immunotherapy and gene therapy together. They think it could extend my life by years, maybe even put me in full remission. But it costs exactly that much, and our insurance won't cover any of it because it's experimental. This is a miracle. This is God answering my prayers. I closed my eyes. Even now, even caught, she was doubling down on the lie. You're going to beat this, sweetheart. I know you are. When can we meet? When can I get the check? I need to register for the trial as soon as possible. There are only a few spots left. Tomorrow, I said. Come to your house around 2. I'll bring a cashier's check. Thank you, Mom Laura. Thank you so much. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're literally saving my life. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. Then I called Mr. Chun and told him the plan had worked. She took the bait, he asked. She practically leaped at it. She's already made up a story about a new experimental treatment at Johns Hopkins. Of course she has. Mrs. Mitchell, tomorrow we end this. Are you ready? I'm ready. That night, I called Marcus and asked him to come over. When he arrived, I sat him down and showed him everything. The fake documents. The photos of Christine with Derek. The bank statements showing where the money had really gone. The video of her at the spa, laughing and relaxed, not a care in the world while he worked overtime to cover bills he thought were piling up from her medical treatments. I watched my son's face cycle through disbelief, denial, anger, and finally a kind of broken devastation that reminded me of the day we buried his father. How could she do this? He kept saying, his voice raw. To you? To me? To our kids? We have children together, Mom. How could she look at Emma and Joshua every day and lie like this? I don't know, baby, I said, holding his hand like I did when he was small and had nightmares. But tomorrow she's going to confess. And you're going to hear it. You need to be there. I can't. I can't see her. I can't. You need to, I said firmly. For the kids. For yourself. You need to hear the truth from her own mouth, or you'll always wonder if there was some explanation, some way this could all make sense. There isn't, but you need to know that with certainty. He nodded slowly, tears streaming down his face. What about Emma and Joshua? They're at school tomorrow afternoon. We'll handle this while they're safe and away. We'll figure out how to tell them afterward. Together. That night, neither of us slept much. I could hear Marcus pacing in the guest room, and I lay awake thinking about the woman I'd welcomed into our family 12 years ago. The woman who'd worn white at her wedding and promised to love my son in sickness and in health. The woman who'd held my grandbaby's moments after they were born and promised to be the best mother in the world. Had she always been a liar? Or had something changed her? In the end, I decided it didn't matter. The why didn't change the what, and what she'd done was unforgivable. The next day, I arrived at Christine's house at exactly 2 p.m. Mr. Chin was already there in an unmarked van down the street with recording equipment. The police were on standby 2 blocks away. Marcus was in the van with Mr. Chun, listening through headphones, a silent witness to his wife's betrayal. Christine answered the door wearing a silk robe, even though it was the middle of the afternoon. Her hair and makeup were done perfectly. She wasn't wearing the headscarf anymore. She looked healthy, vibrant, beautiful. She looked like someone who'd just stolen $300,000 and was about to get another 100,000. Mom Laura. She hugged me tight. Come in, come in. I'm so excited about this new treatment. It's going to change everything. The doctors are so optimistic. We sat in her living room, the same room where I'd played with Emma and Joshua countless times, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, where I'd thought we were building family memories. Before I give you this, I said slowly, taking an envelope from my purse, I need to ask you something. Her smile faltered slightly. Of course. Anything. How are you really feeling? Honestly. Oh, some days are better than others. The chemo is brutal, but I'm fighting. I'm fighting so hard, Mom Laura. For Marcus, for the kids, for you. You've all given me so much strength. Which hospital are you being treated at again? Memorial Hospital. With Dr. Berkowitz. You remember. Right. Dr. Berkowitz. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the coffee table between us. Christine, I need you to be very honest with me right now. Is there anything you want to tell me? Anything at all? Her eyes darted to the phone, then back to my face. I don't understand. What do you mean? I mean, I called Memorial Hospital. There is no Dr. Sarah Berkowitz. I had a private investigator verify your medical documents. They're fake, Christine. Printed from a website for $299. I've been having you followed for 2 weeks. I know about Derek. I know about the condo in Miami. I know about the shopping sprees. I know about every dollar you've spent. I know everything. The color drained from her face. For a long moment she said nothing. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Then she tried to smile, tried to arrange her face into confusion and hurt. Mom Laura, you're confused. Your investigator made a mistake. I can explain everything. The doctor, she works under a different name officially, and the police are outside, I said quietly. So is Marcus. He's been listening to every word from the van down the street. You have one chance right now, one single chance, to tell me the truth before they come in. Why did you do this? Why did you make me think you were dying? She stared at me, and I watched something change in her expression. The mask fell away slowly, like ice melting. The sweet, dying daughter-in-law disappeared, and what remained was someone I didn't recognize. Someone cold and calculating and completely unrepentant. You want the truth? She said, her voice suddenly flat and emotionless. Fine. You want the truth, Laura? I'll give you the truth. You and your precious son have had everything handed to you on a silver platter your whole lives. You live in your big houses, take your nice vacations, and sit on piles of money while the rest of us struggle. You have retirement accounts and life insurance and savings while I have to clip coupons and shop at discount stores and drive a 5-year-old car. We helped you with the down payment on this house, I said, my voice shaking. We've helped with the kids' expenses. We've helped, she spat. You helped. Like you were doing us a favor. Like we should be grateful for scraps from your table. I've been playing the perfect wife for 12 years, Laura. 12 years of cooking your stupid Sunday dinners, pretending to care about your boring stories about Raymond, raising your grandchildren while Marcus worked all the time, playing the role of the grateful daughter-in-law. I deserved that money. I earned it. By lying? By faking cancer? By making your husband think he was going to lose you? By being smart enough to take what should have been mine anyway? You're 72 years old. What do you need $200,000 for? You're going to die soon anyway, probably in the next few years. I just moved up the timeline. I took my inheritance early. I felt like I'd been slapped. And Marcus? Your husband? The father of your children? Marcus is a good provider and a decent father. But he's boring, Laura. He's predictable. He's exactly like Raymond was. Content with his little life, his little job, his little house. Derek makes me feel alive. He sees me for who I really am, not just as a wife and mother. We were going to use your money to start over in Miami. A new life where I didn't have to pretend anymore. And Emma and Joshua? My voice broke on my grandbabies' names. What about them? They'll be fine. Kids are resilient. Marcus can raise them. You can help. They'll get over it. Get over thinking their mother died of cancer? They'll get over thinking their mother left. Same difference in the end. The door burst open. Marcus walked in, his face red and tear-stained, his hands shaking. Behind him were 2 police officers in uniform. Christine's eyes went wide with genuine fear for the first time. Marcus, I didn't mean, don't, he said, his voice breaking. Don't say another word. Don't you dare try to explain this away. Baby, please, I can explain. She took everything out of context. I was just upset, I didn't mean. You said our children would get over it. You said I was boring. You said my mother was going to die soon anyway, so you might as well steal from her now. His voice rose with each sentence. You faked cancer, Christine. You made me think I was going to lose you. You made me tell our children their mother was dying. You watched me cry myself to sleep every night for months, and you felt nothing. I felt something, she said desperately. I love you, Marcus. This got out of hand, but I love you. You don't even know what that word means. The officers stepped forward. Christine Mitchell, you're under arrest for elder financial abuse, fraud, and identity theft. You have the right to remain silent. They read her rights while she screamed and cried and begged Marcus to forgive her, to think of the children, to remember their wedding vows, to remember when things were good between them. The woman who'd coldly told me I was going to die soon anyway was suddenly playing the victim again, suddenly the wronged wife, suddenly desperate and sorry. But it was too late. The mask was off. Everyone had seen the monster underneath. The trial took 6 months to get to court, and every day of it was agony. Christine's lawyer tried every tactic possible. She was mentally ill, they claimed. She had never intended to keep the money. She was planning to pay it all back. She was a victim of coercive control from Derek, who had manipulated her into the scheme. None of it worked. The prosecution had the recorded confession. They had the fake medical documents. They had the bank statements showing exactly where every dollar had gone. They had testimony from Mr. Chun, from the document expert, from the website owner who sold fake medical documents and remembered Christine's order because she'd asked so many detailed questions about making them look authentic. They had Derek himself, who testified that Christine had approached him with the plan, not the other way around. That she'd promised him a new life in Miami, told him she was getting a divorce, said the money was from her own inheritance. He claimed he had no idea she'd faked cancer or stolen from anyone. The prosecution said it was one of the most callous cases they'd ever seen. She didn't just steal money, the prosecutor told the jury in closing arguments. She weaponized the most terrifying diagnosis a person can receive. She made an elderly widow relive the trauma of losing her husband to illness. She made a father fear for his children's future. She made 2 young children believe their mother was dying. She created elaborate medical fantasies and watched her victims suffer, all while laughing at their pain and spending their money on luxuries and an affair. The defense tried to paint Christine as someone who'd had a mental breakdown, who'd gotten caught up in a delusion and couldn't find her way out. But then the prosecution played that recording. Christine's voice cold and clear. "You're going to die soon anyway. I just moved up the timeline." The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge's words at sentencing still echo in my mind. "Mrs. Mitchell, you didn't just commit fraud. You didn't just steal money. You stole peace of mind. You stole trust. You stole precious time that should have been spent on love and family, and you turned it into months of fear and suffering. You weaponized the natural love and compassion of your family, and you did it with a smile on your face. You showed no remorse even when caught. You blamed your victims for being too trusting. That is sociopathic behavior, and it deserves the maximum sentence allowed by law. 8 years in prison." The courtroom gasped when the sentence came down. Christine screamed. Her lawyer objected, but the judge was unmoved. "You will serve every day of this sentence," the judge continued. "And I hope you use that time to reflect on the destruction you've caused. $300,000 can be repaid. Trust cannot. The damage you've done to those children, who will spend the rest of their lives knowing their mother faked a terminal illness to steal from their grandmother, that is permanent. That is your true legacy, Mrs. Mitchell. Not the money, the broken trust. I got my money back eventually. The condo was sold before Christine and Derek could move in. The luxury goods were recovered and sold. Derek, who claimed ignorance of the whole scheme, was never charged but became a social pariah when the story hit the news. He lost his job, his clients, his reputation. Sometimes I think about him and wonder if he really didn't know. I decide I don't care. The real victim in all of this, besides my broken heart and stolen peace, was Marcus. He filed for divorce before the trial even ended. The proceedings were quick since Christine didn't contest anything from jail. He got full custody of Emma and Joshua. He sold the house because neither he nor the kids could stand to live there anymore, with all those memories now poisoned. He bought a smaller place closer to me, and I see them almost every day now. But the damage to those kids, finding out their mother wasn't sick but was instead a criminal, that's something no court can fix. Emma, who's 11 now, refuses to talk about Christine at all. She's in therapy twice a week, working through trust issues and anxiety. She has nightmares sometimes where her mother is chasing her, and she wakes up screaming. Joshua, who's 9, asks questions I can't answer. Did Mommy ever love us, Grandma? Was it all pretend? If she could pretend to have cancer, was she pretending to love us too? I tell him what the therapist coached me to say. Your mother made very bad choices, but her feelings for you were real. Sometimes people who love us still hurt us. That's not about you. That's about her. I don't know if I believe it myself. I don't know if Christine was ever capable of real love, or if we were all just characters in her play. Useful until we weren't. That it's been 2 years now since the arrest. Marcus has found a good therapist for himself too. He's dating someone new, A kindergarten teacher named Alicia who's patient and kind and knows the whole story, but loves him anyway. The kids like her. I like her. She doesn't try to replace Christine. She just tries to be a steady, honest presence. That's all any of us can ask for now. The kids are doing better, though they still have hard days. Emma started playing soccer and throws herself into it with an intensity that worries me sometimes, like she's trying to outrun something. Joshua has become clingy, always needing to know where Marcus is, when he's coming back, making him promise he's not lying. You promise you're really coming back from work, Daddy? You promise you're not just saying that. It breaks my heart every single time. I've forgiven Marcus for not seeing the signs earlier. How could he have known? We see what we want to see in the people we love. I've forgiven myself, too, though that took longer. I spent months asking myself how I could have been so blind, so trusting, so foolish. My therapist, yes, I see one now too, helped me understand that being a trusting person isn't a character flaw. It's a strength that someone else weaponized against me. You didn't fail Christine, she told me. Christine failed you. She failed her children. She failed her marriage. She failed at being human. That's on her, not on you. But I haven't forgiven Christine. Not because I don't believe in redemption or second chances, but because she's never actually apologized. Even now, 2 years into her sentence, she sends letters from prison. Not to me directly, the restraining order prevents that, but to Marcus, begging him to bring the kids to visit. The letters are full of excuses and justifications. She was under stress. She made a mistake. Derek manipulated her. The justice system failed her. Marcus and I conspired against her. She was actually sick, just misdiagnosed. The lies continue even from behind bars. Marcus showed me one letter that arrived last month. In it, Christine wrote, "I never meant to hurt anyone. I just wanted a better life for our family. Is that so wrong? Your mother has plenty of money. She didn't need all of it. I was thinking about Emma and Joshua's future, about giving them opportunities. Everything I did for us. But you and your mother twisted it into something ugly. You destroyed our family, not me. I'm the victim here." I watched Marcus read it, watched his hands shake with rage. "She still doesn't get it," he said. "After everything, all the evidence, the trial, the conviction, she still thinks she's the victim. She still thinks we're the villains in her story. Some people never change," I told him. "They just get better at justifying their actions, even to themselves." He burned the letter in the fireplace. We watched it turn to ash together. "The kids aren't going to visit her," he said. "Their therapists agree it would be damaging. They don't need that kind of toxicity in their lives. Maybe when they're adults, if they choose to, but not now. Not while they're still healing." I agreed. Emma and Joshua had been through enough. They didn't need to see their mother in a prison jumpsuit, didn't need to hear more lies and manipulations, didn't need to be made to feel guilty for their mother's choices. Childhood should be about feeling safe. Christine had stolen that from them once. We weren't going to let her do it again. People in our community have been supportive, mostly. The story made the local news, then a few national news websites picked it up. For a while, our quiet suburban neighborhood was famous for having the woman who faked cancer to steal from her mother-in-law. Some people I'd known for decades crossed the street to avoid me, uncomfortable with the drama, unsure what to say. But others surprised me with their kindness. My neighbor Patricia, who I'd only known casually before, started bringing me meals every Sunday. "I can't imagine what you've been through," she said. "But you don't have to go through it alone." The woman who ran the local bookstore where I'd shopped for 40 years gave me a hug when I came in one day. "I saw the news," she said quietly. "I want you to know that what she did doesn't reflect on you. You're still the kind, generous woman you've always been. Don't let her actions change that. It's the small kindnesses that saved me during the darkest days." The therapist who worked with me pro bono for the first 3 months, because she was so outraged by the case. The lawyer who helped me navigate getting the restraining order and testified at the trial without charging me a cent, Mr. Chun, the investigator, who sent me flowers on my birthday last year with a note that said, "For the strongest woman I know." But the biggest surprise came from Raymond's sister, Carol, who I'd drifted away from after Raymond died. She called me the week after Christine's arrest. "Laura, I just heard. I'm on the next flight out there. You shouldn't be alone." "Carol, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Raymond would have wanted me to. And honestly, I want to. Family takes care of family. Real family, not the fake kind. She stayed for 2 weeks. She helped me process everything, held me when I cried, made me laugh with stories about Raymond that I'd forgotten. On her last day, she said something I'll never forget. "You know what Raymond used to say about you? He said you had the biggest heart of anyone he'd ever met, but you weren't a fool. He said you were strong enough to trust people, and strong enough to deal with them when they betrayed that trust. He'd be so proud of how you've handled this, Laura. You didn't just survive Christine's betrayal. You exposed it. You protected Marcus and those babies. You did what had to be done." Those words helped more than anything else. The idea that Raymond would be proud of me. That I hadn't failed him by being too trusting, but honored him by being strong when it mattered most. The money, when I finally got it back through the courts, felt different somehow. Tainted. Dirty. I couldn't just deposit it back into my accounts and pretend nothing had happened. So I made a decision. I kept enough to restore my savings to where they'd been before Christine stole from me. The rest, about $80,000 after legal fees and the costs of the investigation, I donated. I split it between 3 causes. A foundation that helps families dealing with real cancer, because Christine had weaponized that terrible disease, and I wanted to do something to counter that darkness. A legal aid fund that helps elderly people who've been financially abused by family members, because I learned during the trial that this happens far more often than anyone wants to admit. And a therapy fund for children of incarcerated parents, because Emma and Joshua weren't the only kids suffering from their parents' crimes. When people heard about the donations, some said I was too generous, that I should keep the money for myself, that I'd earned it through suffering. But that wasn't how I saw it. That money represented pain and betrayal. I didn't want it sitting in my account, a reminder of the worst moment of my life. I wanted it to do some good in the world. I wanted Christine's betrayal to at least result in something positive. Marcus understood. "Mom, you're turning poison into medicine," he said when I told him about the donations. That's exactly what Dad would have done. The trial and its aftermath taught me things I wish I didn't know. I learned that elder financial abuse is one of the fastest-growing crimes in America, with families stealing an estimated $30 billion a year from elderly relatives. I learned that cancer scams are common enough that there are entire task forces dedicated to investigating them. I learned that the average victim of financial fraud by a family member is a widow over 70, exactly like me. I learned that most of these crimes go unreported because victims are too ashamed or too afraid of destroying family relationships. I spoke at a community center last year about my experience. It was terrifying, standing up in front of 100 people and admitting what happened. But the response was overwhelming. 3 different people came up to me afterward to say they suspected similar situations in their own families, but hadn't known how to handle it. I gave them Mr. Chen's number and the information for the legal aid fund. One woman, probably in her 80s, gripped my hand with tears in her eyes. "My son has been stealing from me for years," she whispered. "Small amounts at first, then bigger and bigger. He says he's going to pay it back, but he never does." I didn't know if anyone would believe me. I thought I was going crazy. "Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for showing me I'm not alone." I hugged her and gave her every resource I had. "You're not crazy," I told her. "You're a victim of abuse. And you deserve justice just like I got. If anything good came from Christine's betrayal, it's that. The awareness. The conversation. The fact that other elderly people now know they're not alone, that they can speak up, that they don't have to protect family members who are hurting them out of misplaced loyalty or shame." Last month was Emma's 11th birthday. We had a small party at my house, just family and a few of her closest friends. She wanted an art-themed party, so we set up easels in the backyard and let the kids paint. Watching her laugh with her friends, paint splattered on her clothes, looking actually happy for the first time in months, I felt a weight lift from my chest. "She's going to be okay," Alicia said, standing beside me on the porch. "They both are. They have you and Marcus. They have stability and honesty now. That's what they need." "I hope you're right," I said. "I am. I see it in my classroom all the time. Kids are resilient when they have even one stable, loving adult in their lives. These kids have several. They're going to be okay." Later that night, after everyone had gone home and I was cleaning up, Joshua came and sat beside me on the couch. He'd been quiet during the party, and I'd worried he wasn't having fun. Grandma, he said in his small voice. Yes, baby? I'm glad you caught Mommy lying. The words surprised me. We'd been so careful about how we talked about Christine around the kids, always letting them process at their own pace, never bad-mouthing her even though she deserved it. Why's that? I asked gently. Because I was starting to think I was bad at telling when people lied. But if Mommy could fool you and Daddy, then maybe I'm not so bad at it. Maybe she was just really good at lying. My heart broke. This 7-year-old child had been blaming himself for not seeing through his mother's deception. Oh, Joshua, you weren't supposed to see through it. Children aren't supposed to have to question whether their parents are telling the truth. That's not your job. But what if someone lies to me again? How will I know? It was the question I'd been asking myself for 2 years. You trust carefully, I said. You pay attention to actions, not just words. You don't ignore red flags. But mostly you remember that if someone fools you, that's about their skill at lying, not about your skill at detecting lies. Good liars can fool anyone. That's what makes them good liars. He nodded slowly. Daddy says you're the smartest person he knows, and Mommy fooled even you. She fooled me for a while, I agreed. But then I paid attention. I asked questions. I didn't ignore the things that didn't add up. And that's the real skill, Joshua. Not never being fooled, but knowing what to do when you realize something's wrong. He hugged me tight. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, sweetheart. So much. After he went to bed, I sat in the quiet of my living room and thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the investigation, the trial, the healing. I thought about Christine sitting in prison, still convinced she was the victim. I thought about Derek, whose life imploded when his role in the scheme became public. I thought about Marcus, slowly building a new life from the ruins of his marriage. I thought about Emma and Joshua, learning too young that people who love you can still hurt you. And I thought about myself. 72 years old, 2 years past the worst betrayal of my life, and still standing. Still fighting. Still protecting my family. Still choosing to trust carefully instead of not trusting at all. Raymond used to say that the measure of a person isn't what happens to them, but how they respond to what happens. Life will knock you down, he'd tell Marcus when our son was young. Everyone gets knocked down. The question is, do you stay down or do you get back up? Christine knocked me down. She knocked all of us down. But we got back up. Bruised, scarred, more cautious, but standing. That's what she couldn't take from us. Our resilience. Our ability to heal. Our determination to not let her actions define the rest of our lives. 3 weeks ago, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went on a trip. Just a small one, a weekend in the mountains with Carol and 2 other friends. We stayed in a cabin, hiked gentle trails, sat by a fire at night and talked about everything and nothing. I laughed until my sides hurt. I slept better than I had in months. I felt, for the first time since that phone call 2 years ago, like myself again. On the last night of the trip, sitting by the fire with a mug of hot chocolate, Carol asked me, "Do you regret giving her the money in the first place? Even knowing what you know now?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. I regret that she was the kind of person who would fake cancer and steal from family. I said finally. I regret that she hurt Marcus and the kids. I regret the 2 years of stress and trauma. But do I regret being the kind of person who would empty my accounts to save a family member's life? No. That's not a flaw, Carol. That's humanity. That's love. And I refuse to let Christine's actions turn me into someone who wouldn't do that. Even after everything? Especially after everything. If I let her betrayal make me cold and suspicious and unwilling to help people I love, then she wins. She doesn't just take my money. She takes who I am. And I won't give her that. Carol raised her mug. To Laura Mitchell. The strongest woman I know. We toasted under the stars. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because everything was fixed or healed or back to normal. Things would never be normal again. But because I'd survived. We'd all survived. And we were going to be okay. Last week, I took Emma and Joshua to the park. Just the 3 of us, feeding ducks and eating ice cream and playing on the swings. At one point, Emma said, "Grandma, can I ask you something?" "Anything, sweetheart. Do you think about Mommy a lot?" I chose my words carefully. I think about what happened, yes. But I try not to let it take up too much space in my head. I'd rather think about you and Joshua and Daddy. I'd rather think about all the good things in my life. I try to do that too, she said quietly. But sometimes it's hard. I know, baby. It's hard for me too sometimes. My therapist says it's okay to be sad and angry at the same time. She says feelings don't have to make sense. Your therapist is very smart. Emma nodded. Then she looked at me with those big, serious eyes. Grandma, are you going to be okay? The question caught me off guard. Here was this 11-year-old child, who'd been through her own trauma, worried about me. Yes, I said, and I meant it. I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. Promise? I promise. We finished our ice cream in comfortable silence. Joshua ran ahead, chasing pigeons with the pure joy that children have when they're allowed to just be children. Emma stayed close to me, holding my hand, and I realized that this was what healing looked like. Not dramatic courtroom victories or justice served. Just quiet moments. Ice cream in the park. Children laughing. The simple trust of a hand in yours. My name is Laura Mitchell. I'm 72 years old. My daughter-in-law faked cancer to steal $300,000 from me. She betrayed my son, traumatized my grandchildren, and shattered my family's sense of safety and trust. She's in prison now, serving 8 years for her crimes. She'll be released when she's 46, still young enough to start over, though I doubt anyone who knows her story will want anything to do with her. But this isn't really a story about Christine. It's a story about what happens after betrayal. About choosing to trust again carefully. About protecting yourself without becoming cynical. About showing your grandchildren that bad things happen, but good people survive them. About turning poison into medicine. About getting knocked down and getting back up. About being strong enough to love and strong enough to demand justice when that love is abused. I learned the hardest lesson of my life at an age when I thought I knew everything. I learned that family isn't always forever. That trust is precious because it can be broken. That love without boundaries is dangerous. That being kind doesn't mean being naive. That forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. That justice matters. That speaking up matters. That protecting yourself and your loved ones isn't selfish. It's necessary. But I also learned that healing is possible. That therapy works. That communities come together when they see injustice. That children are resilient when they have stable adults in their lives. That new love is possible after betrayal. That friends and family, the real kind, show up when things fall apart. That you can lose your trust in one person without losing your faith in humanity. That strength comes not from never being hurt, but from surviving the hurt and choosing to keep living fully anyway. People ask me if I'm bitter, if I'm angry, if I've changed because of what Christine did. And the honest answer is yes, I have changed. I'm more careful now. I verify things I would have taken on faith before. I ask more questions. I pay attention to red flags instead of explaining them away. I protect my assets and my information more carefully. I've learned that the people who hurt you most are often the ones closest to you, because they're the ones you trust enough to let past your defenses. But I haven't become cynical. I haven't stopped being generous. I haven't stopped trusting people entirely. I've just learned to trust wisely, to trust with my eyes open, to trust in a way that respects both my compassion and my right to protect myself. Last Sunday, Marcus brought a new woman to dinner. Her name is Alicia, the kindergarten teacher. She'd been to a few family events, but this felt different, more serious. At the end of the evening, as she was leaving, she took my hand. Mrs. Mitchell, I just want you to know that Marcus told me everything. About Christine, about what happened. And I want you to know that I understand if you're cautious around me. If you need time to trust me. I get it. I looked at this young woman, so earnest and kind, and I made a choice. Alicia, I said, I'm not going to punish you for what Christine did. You're not her. Every person deserves to be judged on their own actions, not on someone else's crimes. So let's start fresh, okay? I'm Laura. Nice to meet you properly. She teared up and hugged me. Thank you. That means everything. After she left, Marcus hugged me too. Thanks, Mom. I know that couldn't have been easy. It was easy, I told him. The hard part was letting Christine destroy my ability to welcome new people into our family. But I won't let her have that power. She took enough from us. She doesn't get to take our future too. That's the truth I've learned in the 2 years since Christine's arrest. Betrayal doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the middle, the crisis point, the moment when everything falls apart. But then comes the part where you rebuild, where you heal, where you choose who you want to be in the wake of someone else's cruelty. I chose to be someone who still loves, still trusts, still opens her heart, but with wisdom now. With boundaries. With an understanding that loving people doesn't mean ignoring red flags or accepting abuse. I chose to be someone who speaks up when something is wrong, who protects herself and her loved ones, who demands justice when justice is needed. But most importantly, I chose to keep being Laura Mitchell. Not Laura Mitchell, the victim of elder financial abuse. Not Laura Mitchell, who was fooled by a cancer scam. Just Laura, a woman who loves her family fiercely. A grandmother who shows up for her grandkids. A mother who supports her son through the worst crisis of his life. A friend who helps others who've gone through similar betrayals. A person who still believes the world is mostly good, even after seeing how bad it can be. Christine wanted to take my money. She ended up taking much more than that, at least temporarily. She took my peace of mind, my sense of safety, my ability to trust easily. But she didn't take who I am. She didn't break me. She didn't win. And sitting here now, 2 years later, watching my grandbabies heal, watching my son build a new life, watching myself become stronger and wiser, I can finally say something I couldn't say for a long time. I'm okay. We're all okay. We're going to be better than okay. We're going to thrive. That woman who faked cancer, who betrayed her family, who showed no remorse even when caught. She's behind bars, exactly where she belongs. And we're out here living our lives, loving each other, healing together, and proving that even the worst betrayal doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of a new chapter. A stronger one. A wiser one. A chapter where you know exactly who you are and what you stand for, because you've been tested in the worst way possible, and you survived. My name is Laura Mitchell. I'm 72 years old. And I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. There's a difference, and it matters. Justice isn't always swift, but when it comes, it's final. Love isn't always safe, but it's always worth the risk. Trust is sacred, but wisdom is essential. And family, real family, is the people who show up when everything falls apart and help you put it back together, piece by piece, day by day, until you wake up one morning and realize you're whole again. Not the same as before. Changed. Scarred. But whole. And maybe even stronger for the breaking and the healing. That's my story. That's my truth. And I'm sharing it because somewhere out there, someone else is getting a phone call from a family member with a devastating diagnosis, or a financial emergency, or a crisis that requires immediate money. And that person needs to know, it's okay to love. It's okay to help. But it's also okay to verify. To ask questions. To trust your instincts when something feels wrong. You can be both compassionate and careful. You can be both loving and protective. You can be both trusting and wise. These aren't contradictions. They're necessities. And if you've already been betrayed, if someone you loved has already taken advantage of your trust, I want you to know, you're not stupid. You're not naive. You're not at fault. You were loving, and someone weaponized that love against you. That's on them, not you. Their actions don't define your worth or your judgment. They define their character, not yours. Speak up. Get help. Demand justice. And then, when the time is right, choose to heal. Choose to trust again carefully. Choose to keep being the kind of person who helps family members in crisis, but with your eyes open this time. Choose to not let their betrayal change the best parts of who you are. Because in the end, that's the real victory. Not the court case or the prison sentence or the money recovered. The real victory is waking up and still recognizing yourself in the mirror. Still liking who you see. Still being proud of your capacity for love, even after it's been abused. That's strength. That's resilience. That's winning. And that woman who tried to destroy me? She's sitting in a cell right now, probably still convinced she's the victim, still crafting excuses, still unable to see the monster she became. She'll be there for 6 more years at least. And when she gets out, she'll have to live with what she did, with who she is for the rest of her life. Meanwhile, I'm here. With my family. With my friends. With my peace of mind slowly returning. With my grandbabies learning to laugh again. With my son building a new life. With my own strength, hard-won and precious. She tried to take everything from me. She ended up losing everything herself. And I'm still standing, still loving, still living, still whole. That's justice. That's healing. That's survival. That's my story. And I pray no one else has to live it. But if you do know this, you can survive it too. You're stronger than you know. And betrayal, as devastating as it is, doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning of the truest version of yourself. The version that knows both love and wisdom. The version that's been broken and healed. The version that's stronger at the broken places. Welcome to that version. It's a hard one, but it's worth it. I promise.